Well, good morning, ladies.
Hi.
So we've got Molly and we've got Lisa here from Moonyard. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So tell me, for those that get to hear this and really understand your journey, like what are your backgrounds in terms of professionally? Because you're two different professions, right? So tell us a bit about you.
Yeah, I'll go first. So my background is that I'm a clinical psychologist, but prior to training for that, I did all sorts of different things as well. So I kind of came to it a little bit later in life and qualified about six years ago. Is that right? Yeah, 6 years ago. And then worked sort of in the NHS for quite a few years when I was training before, until about 2 years ago. And then I had a bit of a break because I needed one, and went away and did a lot of courses in sort of body work and massage and yoga and breath work and all those kind of things, and sort of felt into a different way of wanting to practice as a psychologist. And then when I came back, I was working for myself. So still doing psychologist work, worked in the women's hospital for 1.5 years and did a private practice around that. And then just sort of, decided to also collaborate with Molly on some workshops because we'd known each other for a few years. So that's sort of how we came together professionally. Yeah.
So did you meet at like an event or something? How did you?
We met because we were neighbours on a road. So I lived across the road from Molly on a very sociable road, called Belfast Road, where it was very kind of community spirited. So we'd have like street parties sometimes and things, didn't we? And actually one of my housemates was an old friend of Lisa's as well. So that's how we first met, was purely social, and then we sort of got chatting through Chaz, and then I went out. Then I went out with someone who was living in the warehouse. So I was there a lot. So kind of crossing the road. Kind of semi-living with these guys. So
So you guys had a good friendship beforehand, as well as a working relationship doing the workshops. Molly, what's your background then? Because you're not a clinical psychologist, are you? You're something different.
Yes. So I came at it kind of from the other side, more from body to mind, I suppose, rather than mind to body, like Lisa. So I'm a yoga teacher, yoga therapist. So was working as a yoga teacher for a few years, and then wanted to go a bit deeper into kind of, well, for me anyway, the yoga journey had always been very related to mental health and mental well-being, as well as the physical side of things. So then I did my yoga therapy diploma, which is kind of using yoga practices, but really tailoring them to the individual to help them move forward with their health or well-being goals. And that could be like physical stuff, but it also could be more mental health stuff, or it could be that they've actually got a syndrome or an illness that they need to manage. So I was kind of, came at it more like, how can we use the body to help stuff with the mind? And then I think Lisa came at it obviously working in the mental health field, and then was really interested in how to bring the body side of things in. So it was through just chatting at parties and things on Belfast Road that we started to like swap ideas and realize that we had lots of overlapping interests in terms of what we were doing work-wise. And then we did those workshops together that were all about self-compassion, cultivating self-compassion. And that was really fun, doing those collaborations and bringing in, some more body-centered embodiment practices, but also some reflective aspects to the workshop as well. And we got really nice feedback from that workshop. So that was the kind of how we came to know that we could work together. And then it was Lisa said, I've been speaking to this woman called Dr. Talene. I'm really interested in the work that she's doing. She offers this program. Would you be interested in collaborating on it and building an online program?
Well, we've been talking, basically we did the first workshop, I think it was at the end of 2019. So we'd spent quite a lot of time organising it. And then I went off to India for a month to assist on the course that I'd trained in the year before. Came back, I think we met up like maybe in February or March, and then the pandemic hit. But through that time, we realised the new place I'd moved into, she also knew people there randomly. So we kind of met up. We've had like lots of links, like random coincidence links, sort of like the universe just like thrown us together, literally.
Right.
And so then we like through the pandemic, we're meeting up, talking about running a women's circle, talking about doing different workshops, talking about doing retreats online. So we had like 3 or 4 meetings, hadn't we, before I was like, do you want to, we like had all these ideas and we like scribbling things down in books, but none of it was sort of being taken forward. So I think when I'd had that meeting, the first conversation with you, and you were like, join the group, hang around, see what you think, suddenly I was like, actually, you know, maybe Molly would like to do something with me, because I think this would be a sort of really good outlet for us, because you'd been working online anyway then, hadn't you?
Yeah, so at that point, I did all my teaching to online, but it was like we had all these ideas, but it was hard to kind of really get them going and put some structure on them and put like some form on them. So
So it was that at that point, like it was loads of ideas kind of pouring out of you guys' minds into like, oh, this is how you could drive it forward. And I guess individually you hadn't been able to create something as holistic as you've created now, like in your own separate practices. Is that right?
Yeah, because I think we both probably, I don't know, I'll speak for myself, but I definitely, after I'd gone away and done this sort of like life-changing courses abroad, I came back and I was like, I'm still going to go and work as a psychologist in a women's hospital in a very conventional setting, and it wasn't a bad thing, because it was like building up my business and getting some money in the bank and some resources together. But and then I was doing private practice one-to-one, so I was bringing some stuff in, but I think because everything was online, actually that's a lie. When I was working in the women's hospital, I did sort of bring some of the bodywork practices in, because I was working with people on a spectrum and challenging behaviour, so it's slightly stepping outside of clinical psychology training. But in terms of actually taking it forward more creatively, you know, sort of creating something new and creating a new space, rather than going into sort of pre-existing structures that are a bit skeptical, that kind of thing, I hadn't taken that leap yet, just because I hadn't had the outlet for it. And you know, the pandemic hit and there was just so much need for people to have one-to-one therapy online, so I was just falling into doing that and really busy all the time, but feeling like I don't want to just do this all the time, you know, I need to do some other stuff, and I want to implement this other side of things that I've been learning about and I feel really passionately about. So
I think for me, I think I kind of lacked some confidence as well to like kind of, I mean, I don't think I would have ever been able to have, and it's the collaborative aspect was really crucial for me, of like working with someone, having someone to bounce ideas off, and also working with someone who has all these other qualifications that kind of give you a little bit more security of like, okay, we want to work with this group, and it's like, oh, it'll be safe because I'm working with a clinical psychologist who like knows how to support people in a more therapeutic group setting. And so it was like the collaboration of actually working with someone and the support and fun of bouncing ideas with someone who you get on with, and that dynamic's really like been very big sort of motivator for me and kind of helped me find a lot more focus. But then also I think, if I was to ever try and build a program, I think for me to be able to steer away from it just being like a yoga program and into something a bit more transformational or therapeutic, I think I would have always felt, I think that would have been a hard leap for me to make without collaborating with someone who brings that other skill set in, because I think I'd always had to be quite conscious of like, well, this is my scope of expertise and it ends here. So I can't pretend like I am a therapist, you know, a proper therapist, a psychotherapist, you know. So I think that's a bit of a muddled reply, but
but I think it is like people do get kind of caught up in the titles of how they kind of qualify, and like you know, your journey, Lisa, of like just explaining like qualifying as a clinical psychologist and then exploring other modalities and then recognizing that holistic nature, you know, and then vice versa, like Molly on your end, and like really seeing the bigger nature of what you can do, and that's a lot of the times when people start to kind of, how could I create something of my own, you know? I think there's something about working in partnership with the right person though, right? You know, because I remember us having a conversation of like, is this the right, you know, like I want to be really clear, because like we work with business partners, but it is important that they've worked together in some sort of way before. Because you know, there's like, or had a friendship with, you know, as well as that. So because it's there's, you know, ups, there's downs, there's different kind of ways of working. What's it been like working together, and how did it benefit you both because you'd had that pre-existing working relationship?
Do you want to go?
Sure. I mean, I've had previous experience of working with a business partner that was not the right person to be working with, so I feel like I know firsthand very well how important it is to be working with the right person, and how I worked with this person for years and we just could never figure out the dynamic. It was, I really wanted for it to work, but we were just the wrong personalities to be collaborating. So then we had that experience of doing the workshop together. So I think we knew that we enjoyed working together, and obviously the friendship and like a good ability to communicate with each other and an understanding of each other and who we are. But yeah, I found it really enjoyable collaborating on the program. And yeah, of course, there's going to be challenges, and when you're trying to, I don't know, both do something that you find hard, and there's, it's like, yeah, things are going to be difficult sometimes, and there's going to be, and there's some stress, right, and there's some tension of like taking a leap and making an investment and investing time and money and energy into like a new way of working. So there's it's not like there aren't some tricky emotions to like navigate sometimes as well, but I also think that I'm just getting so much more from collaborating than if we were trying to do it on our own. And I think that's just because we have a good relationship and I think we're quite honest with each other. I think we communicate quite well. Yeah. And also because I feel like also I've learned a lot about like clear communication of like boundaries and needs and things, because I think you model that really well.
Yeah. God, I was just laughing because I was just like, I was going to say what I feel has worked really well with us is that like I feel that Molly's incredibly patient and very accommodating when I'm like, like I'm feeling exhausted today, I'm sorry, I just can't do this right now. She's like, no, it's no problem at all, fine. And I'm like, wow, okay,
but that's good, because then it also gives me the opportunity, if I need to like say, oh, actually, do you know what, I need a bit more time for this, or I can't do this at the moment, or I'm not feeling, I'm much happier to have a working relationship like that than someone who's going to be really unrealistic. And
I was going to say, like, because I don't know, sometimes I think I'm quite all or nothing sometimes. So I'll have a day where I'm like, right, let's get these 10 things done, boom. And I know that like not everyone works like that. And then other days I'll be like, I can't do anything today, I just need to rest. And I think you're probably a little bit more like break things up into small tasks and like do them, not like always, I know you think that you don't, but I think you, like, I'll speak to Molly and she'll be like, oh yeah, I've been doing this little bit in the background and like this bit, like kind of like lots of little bits. And I'm like, I just can't work like that. I'm like, we need to do everything kind of in one go so I can understand. But that's good, because it means that I think both of us sort of fit around the other. You might not agree with that or think that that's the case, but yeah. And then I think
you've got more focus.
And then sometimes I'd be like seeing that Molly would look a bit tired, and I'd be like, no, can we just get this done? And then this, and can we make a plan for the next few days? And it's not like we'd always stick to the plan. But I think you were then like, oh, actually, it's good for me because you do kind of make a plan and you do drive it forward, and you are like, how are we going to structure how we do the next bit? And that's what you've struggled with. Yeah. So actually, it's been really nice because I've sort of like, you've been like taking the pressure off what I put on myself sometimes. Like, it's okay if we don't do that, Lisa, today. And I'm like,
Lisa, we've set these deadlines for ourselves.
We can change them. And then I'm sort of like sometimes driving, but I'm like, okay, should we just try and kind of crack on? So that's been nice.
It's good for you to have that forward momentum. Yeah, I think we complement each other quite well in that sense. Yeah, for sure. Different energy.
Yeah, brilliant. I love that, because it really is important to understand each other and to be able to navigate that throughout. And you guys have done that really brilliantly as a partnership from the beginning, which is going to serve you well. And I think it's important for people to get that. So I love that you shared that story as well, Molly, in terms of like, it doesn't always work, and you've got to kind of figure out who that right person is, because it really is important to be in business. If you are going to have a partnership, be in business with the right partner, or just be in business by yourself until the right partner comes along, So how you mentioned before about kind of getting to an idea generation type of stage by the time you got started. So where exactly were you? Like, had you created anything in terms of your offers, or anything in terms of websites, or anything like that?
Not together, no. I mean, you had a website previously, didn't you? But
yeah, but not related to our collaborative ideas around women.
It would be interesting to pull out our notebooks though from last year, because I know that there were loads of times we met up and we were like, and it probably would make no sense, and we'd be like, what does that even mean? But I wonder if there'd be some nuggets in there that are coming through and what we're doing now.
We definitely would have written notes on some of our calls, I think. Yeah, during the pandemic. I could dig out that as well.
But that was it. It was just like scribbles in notebooks.
Yeah.
I think we knew we wanted to work probably with women first time round.
Okay.
Because we talked about doing this women's circle for quite a long time, hadn't we?
Yeah.
I think that was it. I think, you know, apart from that, we didn't really have a niche. I think when I spoke to you, I was like, yeah, maybe something roughly around relationships, I'm not sure. And then and then we sort of honed in, and it was more like, oh, well, relationship with self for women, and like women who struggle with themselves, or women who, you know, perhaps are stressed or overwhelmed, or and yeah, we just kind of, we didn't really have a clear idea before we started.
Yeah, which I love that you share, because sometimes it is that preconceived idea of like, maybe I should kind of figure out my head first and then get started. So what helped you like decide to start before you were ready, in a sense? You know what I mean? Like, and how helpful was it in getting ready in terms of with your idea concrete on who you're going to help and how you're going to help them by having some support?
I was just thinking in terms of what sort of how, like, making the decision to join the course, even though we didn't have like a firm plan in mind of what we were going to produce out of it. This is a bit of a weird one, but I think also the pandemic, bizarrely, I think in my mind might have played into it to a degree, because I think it kind of made me stop a little bit, reflect, and be like, I don't think I can just keep on teaching, but on a more personal level, I don't think I can just keep on teaching yoga classes forever, because I just feel like I'm not really evolving. It's not like I'm not really sort of applying everything all the knowledge that I've acquired over the years that I've been practicing. And so I think I had this feeling that I really wanted to do something differently, and where I was able to go a lot deeper into my work and produce something, and create something like as a whole new vision. So I think just the idea that the program offered that, and that hadn't really been able to kind of get it going. So I think the time that it was as well kind of played into me being like, well, look, I think I just need to take this leap, because I need the support and the collaboration to make this happen. And this seems like a perfect way of like nurturing that without me having to kind of be able to. So I don't know, the timing was important, I think, for me.
I think for me it was more that because we'd spoken last year and I'd sort of been like hanging out in the group and like looking at the challenge, it was more about the modality than who am I going to help. I was just like, it's kind of irrespective who you help, I just believe in this way of working. And it wasn't that I didn't have I wasn't going to like be like, I'm going to help everyone. There were definitely 3 or 4 ideas that I had sort of percolating in the back of my head, but it didn't matter, because any of those things I could see would work within that format. So I think it was just like, I would never have known how to approach this format or have the confidence to use this format or anything like that, but actually this makes a lot of sense. And especially in terms of what we'd thought about doing something online, because everyone had to think about doing things online anyway. So I think some of it was the timing, but also I'd been working online even prior to the pandemic as an online therapist for like 2 years. So I'd been working online for a while, but I think it was getting to that point of, it's not, a bit like you're saying, I couldn't just carry on doing, yoga lessons forever. I didn't feel like it was sustainable for me in the long run to just carry on doing loads and loads of one-to-one online therapy sessions. So I'd made the shift to working online and being able to be flexible of where I worked from and everything, but it was still quite exhausting on a personal level. Plus, I don't always feel like it is, it's the same, like regardless of whether you're working online or in person, you still get that thing of people kind of not being committed to therapy for a while, falling off, feeling quite frustrated. That's quite energy consuming and tiring. And I think about this sort of people being committed to a transformation thing now that we've come through. It's like, this is really exciting to me, because really it is a massive behavior change step for people to invest and go, right, I'm going to do this in this period. I'm feeling really excited about that, I think. So it wasn't, I think it was just that it was the modality rather than, I knew that I had areas that I was passionate in, that's always been there, so that wasn't the most important part. It was just like trying something new. And then I think what helped us to really hone in on what we've ended up, writing our first course around, or kind of marketing to, was just the first few modules of the course, really, which is just very much like, no, not specific enough, too fluffy. What's your A? What's your B? Can you hone in even more? This is how this works. If it's too broad, you're not going to kind of capture the right people. And we've had so many people question us as well over the course of the coaching and now about why we're choosing to work with women without children. And it's just like, I think at the beginning we had certain ideas, and it's like the more you kind of question it and hone in, but then we were doing research and hanging out, and it's like, no, this is actually really, so you don't always know straight away why you're being called in that direction. But once you start going, oh my God, this is actually really speaking to a lot of people, and really understanding. And I think you don't have that experience if you're broad, because you are a bit like, oh, actually this could apply to everyone. But then there's something about being able to really hone into a specific group and being like, no, you have actually really got shared experiences, and there is a sort of narrative around this that needs to be kind of examined and like modified and, you know, helped and shifted in society. So I think that's been really helpful, because again, it's like clinical psychology. If you work in an NHS place, you are working with everyone. It's quite tiring, actually. It's quite exhausting. And sometimes going into a specific area and being like, right, I'm going to get really niche, mean that you can really specialize in a way that's not everyone's the same, everyone's still individual, but you're still working with similar issues with people. So it kind of becomes, I don't know, it feels like you can go deeper, isn't it? Really. So
that depth of it, isn't it, as well. No, and I love that in terms of being able to kind of work out. There was a few ideas there percolating. How did you take part in the challenge, Lisa? Did you do the challenge?
I don't think I submitted anything. I might have like a comment or two on like one or two of
but you was like watching and
but I watched it. I mean, I can't say I watched all of the videos for the whole hour, but I downloaded the workbook and I did like a lot of the exercises. So it was, I guess it was just getting me much more into the idea of like, this is practically what you have to do. And it was, some of it was uncomfortable, and I was a bit like, oh, this is going to feel weird. This isn't how I work usually. But I think that was also good, because it was like, well, are you ready then for this? And I think that's what you'd said to me when we first spoke. You're like, maybe you're not. So it was like, actually, I kind of like to be ready for this if I could be, because this could be great. So yeah, I think that was the process for me. And fortunately, because me and Molly had sort of been talking for a long time in the background about doing something, and then you were like willing to take the leap. I was like, you know, watch this and see how you feel.
I definitely had an awareness that I needed to have a niche, that like I was just speaking to everyone, was speaking to no one. And I was conscious that running your own business, it's like I needed to find a niche, needed to find a specific group that I was gonna focus on. But without the process of those early modules, I think in the course I would have really found it hard to identify it. But it's like we've got to this point now, and it was a bit of a journey getting there, but it just feels very comfortable in my body. The idea that we're working with this particular group initially, it actually feels very right in my being, and it's also something I can personally connect to a lot. So it feels like a really good place to start. And we were talking that, you know, further down the line we might try and work with different groups and do different programs, of course. But no, it feels like I don't know if we'd have got to that niche without the guidance of those early modules in the program. But now that we're at it, it feels really right. And people have questioned it, but I feel very comfortable explaining. So you know, that's, you know, I feel it feels good.
Absolutely. And it is true, like those first few modules really are like kind of delving deep into what it is you're going to do, and they're really important. And also the mindset piece as well. Was that quite a shocker in terms of recognizing the, you know, the mindset? For some people, they just think they're going to come in and it's going to be like, you know, business strategy, let's just go on. And then there's all this mindset stuff as well, and personal development. How was that for you?
It feels like it's really been the foundation on which everything else can build. Like it felt, I was like, whoa, okay, we're going deep, we're going all the way back in. But then actually, then it's like, okay, do that, sort that stuff out. And then the rest of it is going to flow a lot more easily, I think, rather than trying to jump into what are you going to produce. It makes a lot of sense to me that it was like, had to do that personal sort of inventory and work first before, and to make sure you're really sort of heart connected to what you're doing, which is what I do. Right? So it's not just like, oh, this is a cool business idea, I reckon it's going to sell well, you know? Which is, you know, it's obviously one way to do things, but it makes it a lot more like, feels like a connect, it's like rooted in a lot more deeply us, I think, than if we'd kind of approached it that other way.
Absolutely. The
mindset stuff for me has been like life changing. Because actually it was weird, because I sort of like, oh yeah, And I think you'd even said that. It was like, well, actually, when you come to module 2, because you're a psychologist, you might be like, yeah, this is stuff I know. Which I was like, I have to admit, I was like, yeah, let's go through it, blah, blah, blah. So I was kind of almost like doing it by rote to start with. I don't think I really got the benefit of the mindset stuff until much later in the course, and because I was on the calls, and I had a couple of shares where I was quite vulnerable, and I was like, actually, I'm really struggling. And also I think because there was some stuff that happened mid-course, personally, that made me feel a bit like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this, because you know. And it was actually like playing out, and I think people's response, and like we all really resonate with that, we really share that, was a really powerful experience. And it was just like a reminder that's like, don't do the mindset stuff by rote because you know it. Because it keeps changing through your life, doesn't it? So you'll have mindset blocks come up about different things at different stages of your life. So I found that really powerful for all, and it's not just being for the business, it's being like, you know, in my personal life and lots of different areas as well. So yeah, I think that's I think it's great that it's at the beginning, but I have to say, for me, it didn't really click into place until later on. But that's okay, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Planting the seed, it's sort of, absolutely. And I think also there's probably something about, you're not trained as a psychologist, so that might have been more, oh yeah, okay, cool, let's
maybe
do this.
I was a bit more, I probably had less of that kind of like, oh, I know this stuff, because I didn't really feel that I did necessarily. So yeah, maybe I kind of meant I approached it with a bit of a more of a beginner's mind, maybe.
Absolutely. And how helpful was the community for you, Lisa? Because I know you was an active member in the community. Whilst you've got Molly there by yourselves, how useful was it being in a team of other practitioners around you, doing, like, moving forward in a new way their business?
Oh yeah, so helpful. I mean, I've always been a big advocate and fan of, you know, power of community, so I wasn't surprised by that in some ways, but I like the fact that there's so much difference in us in the kind of different projects we have, but there feels like there's such shared values and such shared kind of like ways of seeing things, or just that idea of support. And there's really no one in the community that wasn't super supportive at some point. So it's weird because you're not in person, or you don't feel like you get to know people on a one-to-one, you know, like level, but you kind of do, I think, over the course, because everyone kind of gets an opportunity to share a bit. And so by default, you sort of do get to know a bit about everyone's personality, and it's really nice. I just think it's that, I think Jazz put something in on the Vibe and Rise yesterday. It was just like, oh, I've been off grid for a couple of weeks, but it's reading you guys just, you know, moving forward with things and supporting each other. It's really inspiring me to keep going. It's just that thing of like the week when you're having a bad week, and I was like, well, at the very least, I'm just going to log on to the call. And I know there were a couple of times where I was like, I might just turn my camera off because I'm like, and then I'd just start talking, and I'd be like, oh, actually, that really helped. I'm back on track now. Okay, it's okay that I'm having a bit of a meh week, and everyone's like, yeah, we're the same. It's not like there's nothing wrong with that. That's just normal. That's part of the course.
Exactly. And that's part of the entrepreneurial road, right? And also being a practitioner, it can be isolating, like in general, regardless of whether, you know, whatever you're doing, like it can have those isolating moments. So building that community around you is really, really important to keep you going, keep you connected to your vision and your why, and just keep those tasks moving, you know. You both accomplished so much. So like, what kind of tangible results did you see yourself have in that journey of going through the program? What did you come out with? You started with like ideas in a notebook. I'm not sure where to go. Where did it get you to?
What are our main tangible results at this stage?
Well, I think we have a clear vision and a clear aim of what we want to do with the program and who we want to work with, which we didn't have before we started. We have basically, as of last night, mastered a whole new way of marketing. That is a lot more manageable and a lot, and I feel so much more comfortable with that marketing strategy than the idea of us having to be like, okay, well, we might still, you know, do Instagram and other things as well, more kind of front-facing stuff, but less targeted stuff. But to feel that we have a strategy in place that's going to find the right people was a huge liberation, I think, because I think that's been always my fear of running my own business. Like, well, how do you actually, great, I've got these things set up, and you could be like Instagramming, Facebooking, but like it doesn't necessarily yield
How do you
any
find the right
particular
people?
result, like doesn't necessarily yield loads of clients. So I've always felt like that was kind of a little bit out of my control, and that's quite an alarming feeling if that's your business. So, you know, so to then feel that we've got like a marketing strategy. So obviously the masterclass ad has only just launched, so we'll see how that goes. But the Facebook group ad did really well, so that was really affirming and reassuring that it was like, yes, these women do exist. They are looking for some support. They are looking for community. So
yeah,
that's
really
been that's been a, you know, we've got like a sizable Facebook group that we've built over the last couple of months. We've got, our masterclass content is there, ready to go.
I think having the Facebook group was really important for me, because I think I'd spoken in the sort of weekly meetings about it's just a bit intangible for me at the moment.
Yeah.
You're saying what's the tangible results? As soon as we started having people apply for that and saying why they're applying and saying hello to each other, and you know, we've done some live videos, we've done some non-live videos, we've seen views on all of them, probably the non-live a bit more that people watch over time, but I think it was just that sort of showing up and starting to work in a different way, so kind of being a face of something to an audience. Yes, it's an online audience, but you're kind of, you know, interacting in a different way than you would in a one-to-one therapy session, because you don't really know who these people are. It's like I mean, you get a little glimpse in the question and answers that they give when they apply for the group, but I think it was like a hurdle to overcome of like, right, this is us, this is what we represent, this is what we're interested in, this is like our area that we feel passionate about, but we've also got expertise in through personal experience and professional experience, and like the confidence that comes from that. So we're not, you know, we're at the stage now where, well, fingers crossed, in the next couple of months we'll be taking calls and getting people onto the course and everything, but I think it's more the tangible results so far on the journey is more like just having the confidence and what's the word I'm looking for? Belief, really. The confidence, belief that this is happening and it's going forward, and it's not about a specific time frame. It's just, I don't know. For me, it's like, yes, I'm committed to this. It doesn't matter how quickly it happens. It's going to happen.
Conviction, it's conviction as well. This is worth doing, and we're going to keep on doing it. We're going to execute it. And sometimes some tasks might take us longer than we planned. At the moment, obviously, we're building this and keeping our other businesses obviously going. So, but it's as you say, like self-belief, confidence, conviction of like, okay, we're going to keep on moving down this path, and we might hit obstacles. Whereas I feel like in the past when I've hit obstacles on my own, I'm like, okay, well that's just probably just not going to work then. You know, it's very easy to get derailed, I think.
Or who do I think I am? Or it's too much work.
So absolutely. Because how many is in the group now? Where are you at?
310.
310, right? See, look, 310 women that didn't know you before. Like, it's incredible, right? In just a matter of months. Like, that's amazing. So that really is that confirmation of like people need help in that area, you know. So just keep showing up for them, and they're showing up for you, you know, and they and themselves, more importantly, right? Which is incredible. How was it in terms of shifting mindset from like going from that kind of per session model that you might have had, although actually, Molly, you would have probably had groups, but it might have been like they pay per person to come into that group, and they're not paying per transformation, is what I mean. Like, do you feel you could have had that kind of mental shift yourself, or like how supportive was it having that structure of developing like a program, a transformational experience to come up with the kind of price points that you have?
I don't think I would have ever been able to get to that on my own. I don't think I even really had it in my head as a possibility that people could even really do that, work that way in a sense. I think I've been so sort of indoctrinated into, so yoga obviously, it is very much like either pay for group sessions, people might buy a pack, or the way I'd been working online when the pandemic hit was I had like people with monthly subscriptions, so they just keep on coming to classes every week, which isn't necessarily a bad model, but it also is quite energetically, it's quite tiring having to always be like, oh, we're going to do a new thing. And it's like, it's great to have long-term loyal clients, not to say I'm not hugely grateful for them very fond of them. But as you say, this idea of doing a transformational, like we're going to move from this point to this point, and then it's going to have like a very specific goal, destination in mind. I don't think I would have got to that as an idea of a way of working. I don't think I even really understood that it was like that was a possibility, really. And also especially working all online. So I'm trying to think, the only transformational things I've ever done maybe would be like a retreat where you're kind of trying to take someone on a journey from one thing to another. But even then it wouldn't have been in my mind as clearly defined as what we're doing with this. Like I might have had like, okay, this is my aim for the retreat for my clients. But I probably wouldn't have even like communicated it to them that clearly that what I was going to do. I would just have like a little plan in my head. And then, so anyway, I don't think I would have ever got to that way of working without the guidance of the course.
No, I wouldn't. I think that was one of the points in the position price promote that actually was like, okay, this has got my attention now, because I think I remember saying to you when we had our first call, it just doesn't sit comfortably. I was definitely in the money mindset thing. I was like, no, this doesn't sit comfortably with me. It's kind of a bit like and I think that's possibly why you said, okay, well, you're not, ready to like go and sort of see. But it was quite challenging, and I don't know, I had to sit with it for a while, and it was it's difficult to sort of. I think I'm still a bit like, is this really okay? But I have less of that now, and it's and I think that's just part of the course, really. If you're used to doing something differently, anything, it's not necessarily even to do with money. Moving away from one way of working into a different way of working is going to feel a bit strange for a bit.
And also going through a program in that format yourself makes me a lot calmer about the idea of working, like a lot more comfortable with, because I know now firsthand the benefit of it. So then it's like, well, we've done a program of a similar, obviously different focus, but structure. And I'm really delighted that we've done it, and I think it needed to be in that structure to have the transformational effect that it's had. So that gives me confidence in structuring our program similarly, that it's like actually having it in that structure and those kind of price points is part of the transformational aspect of it. So absolutely make people be like fully all in.
Absolutely, because I'm sure if there's just a few £100, there might have been times where you're just like, forget it. Especially when it was placed in the pixel. But
do you know the hours?
We'll find another way of working. We'll figure out another.
But you was like fully invested, like energetically, time, money, right, everything around it. You was like, we're gonna move this forward. We're gonna just follow like your intuition of like where it'd been guiding you both together to come up with the ideas. And then it was like, okay, well, we could be, go on this journey and actually see it come to light. And that's exactly what you've done, and you've achieved so much. And how did you both make time? Like, how did you fit it? Because you kept your other business priorities, and then you've got, life just going on around it. So
there were some weeks where it felt really natural and comfortable. I mean, I feel very lucky, actually, in the sense that I don't have kids, so that's a massive thing. And although I moved twice sort of in the last year, which was a big upheaval, so that was still kind of like settling and feeling okay. Well, last year and a half now, I'd already kind of moved my business model that I wasn't going to be working full time. So I think I had the hours in the day, and also I was ready to have a different focus in some of those hours. So in that sense, I found it quite easy to sort of make the time for the course. But there were weeks where, like you say, life happens. And then it's like, I'm still doing one-to-one, and it's not again about the number of hours, it's about the energy that those hours take from you. So, and I think that's been it's something I was already aware of from working, in the way that I've worked, but I think it really cemented that thing of, it's not how many hours you do each week, it's sort of the quality of them and like what you're getting done. And I think you talked about like, your power hours, or your hours when you're feeling more, and it's like, actually, so you could do a 12-hour day and not really accomplish anything the other day and be like, wow, I've accomplished so much now that I'm going to go and do loads of other things the rest of my life, that actually at the end of that day I feel great. So I think it's, for me, that's been a big shift as well.
Yeah.
Stuff I kind of knew, and you sort of talk about with clients, actually having the experience of getting to the end of a week and being like, oh yeah, I feel pretty good. And I've kind of accomplished a lot in lots of different areas, rather than just like I've been hammering away at work for 5 days and now I need to sleep for 48 hours. Feels a lot better. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It does, you kind of get energy from it then, don't you? When you feel like that sort of sense of satisfaction of like, we really made some big steps to the business, it's been fun, and working for me as well, I just feel like working with someone else and working with you has been like really energizing, rather than just on my own kind of doing the same thing and not really so I think it's and also my timetable as well has lots of pockets in it, to be fair. It's not like I'm trying to do a 9 to 5 as well as the Moonyard. So
we were quite flexible with each other, really, weren't we? Because we'd have a couple of
bit,
weeks where we'd maybe, have a couple of two or three calls at most for an hour. And then other weeks we'd just be like, should we actually jump on a Saturday? Because both of us didn't have anything going on. I think we spent like 6 or 7 hours online on a Saturday
doing our masterclass
which is like, what do we do? What is our life coming to where we're spending just like taking the laptop and cooking with each other, and it's like
still doing things in the background, but I think we just needed that just to get those slides done, because it was like otherwise we were jumping in, jumping out, and then it would be like you have to come back and remember where you got to and remember which ones you still had to tweak and stuff. It was like, okay, let's just go through them all
together. But I love what you both say about it energizing you. Like it wasn't like, let's bring the laptop. Like it actually gave you energy, and it is about, like what you said there, Lisa, about like how do those hours fuel you in your day, and really being able to tune into that, because that is a choice in terms of how you choose to use your hours, and are your hours fueling you or are they draining you, and what can you do to maneuver that, right? So I love that it was fueling you, because that's the whole point, right? So just that soul nourishment, right? I'm a big believer around that. So like always looking back at your journey, it's like, wow, like look how far we've come from starting with not really sure what idea we're going to move forward, not even sure how we're going to design our program, not even sure what we're even going to call our business, right? And getting to the point where you've got your business name, it's incorporated, you've got your business bank account, you're set up, you're marketing it, you've 310 new women that have found you, right? So you've really come a long way. But that initial part where it's like, are we doing this? Like, what helped you? Like, what was that leap like emotionally, financially, mentally? All sorts comes up in that moment of yes at the beginning. What was that like for you both, if you can remember that point?
If you don't mind, I'll go first, because I think for me, this is where I admire Molly a lot, because I think she took a big leap of faith in me almost. Because I was like, look, this was my process, and I'd had a long time to consider it. So I think because we'd spoken first, and actually I think I appreciated so I think a follow-up call had been booked because it was 6 months after or something. It was like a reach out. And I think I was like, I'd got the email about, would you like to book a call? And I think that's what made me go to Molly, because I'd been sort of hanging out. So I'd had a lot more time, and I'm like that. I like to sort of mull things over. So it wasn't like we just had a call and I was like, yeah, straight away.
Right, yes, yeah.
Then I went to Molly and I said, look, just, join this group, check her out check her out for a week. And she was like, no, I like it. And then I think with the call, we had 24, and I was like, it was kind of in Molly's hands. I was just like, look, I like this lady. I'm not going to do it solo right now, because I'd like to do this with you. So it's up to you. So the kind of final decision was taken out of my hands, which I was like, I'm just going to be really fatalistic about it. If it's the right thing to happen, and if it's meant to happen as collaboration, then it'll be a yes. So I snuck out of the final decision.
But you did also say, look, don't feel rushed. Yeah. And maybe you want to take a bit more time before you make this decision, like there's pressure. But like I say, I think the timing all just worked out really well for me. Like, again, without being too sort of like, oh, it's all fate, but it was just, you came to me with this, that just at this particular time, we just moved into this new house in London, having our work being really disrupted from the pandemic. And I was kind of back in London, and I was like, well, I can't just go back to just doing loads of yoga classes every week. So it kind of felt like it was just the right thing at the right time, and I was really ready for a new way of working and trying to think about it's sort of the time. I think the timing was important.
Definitely.
And then it was for sure. It was scary as well. I was like, but kind of scary and exciting in equal measure. And then maybe it's just like me having, I don't know, excessive faith in us, or maybe I don't know, but I knew that we'd worked well together. So I was like, look, I think I trust us to make this work. Like, this feels scary, but I think I trust us to figure this out and make this work. That's kind of how I was feeling. And I was like, look, you know, let's just, I could spend a couple of months mulling this over. And then we just have spent those couple of months not making this happen. And the idea of it, and also just the idea of guidance and a structured support path through the journey, I was like, that actually would be ideal, because I think it's going to actually accelerate what we want to do heaps, because otherwise we could spend months going through and having got to basically the equivalent of like module 3, couldn't we?
Just full of notebooks and notebooks with loads of scribbles.
Sometimes, you know, like, absolutely. And I love the share about like the scary and excitement in equal measure, because I feel like sometimes it could feel like, from an outsider, of like, oh well, they were just like really excited and ready and just like jumped, and we, you know, but in most cases it is like scary and also exciting. It should feel a combination of both, because you are reaching into the unknown, that you've not been there. But I guess now looking back, it's like, yes, we done it. Moonyard, where we come. I love that. What would you say to somebody that is, or business partners that might be watching this, or, you know, hearing this, and that are like, they want to build a partnership, they know that they can work extremely well together because they've done partnership work before, they've built great friendships, they trust in it, they feel, also I feel like there was that intuition within you both of like, just like, literally we're being guided to this, and there was like that connection, and they're just not sure how to kind of build that momentum and getting their business started and getting off the ground. Like, what would you say to them in terms of their ability to be able to do this and like following their calling, or what kind of advice would you give business?
I think one of the most important things we did, and I felt was really, really necessary before we made the commitment to join the course sort of jointly in its own way, was I was just like, can we just have the really difficult conversations now? So I was just, and I think I knew that was necessary for more, I don't know, but my instinct and my intuition was saying that because you'd had a previous business partnership that had gone a bit tits up, and had left you like with a sour taste in your mouth. And I was also quite aware of, you know, if one of us is going to be fronting, like, how is that going to work? What's the dynamic around that? So I was just like, look, how would this work? How would you feel if I'm like in this, getting this? Would you feel resentful? I think I just went through all the different emotions that might come up from that collaboration. Do you remember?
That was really reassuring.
And I think you were a bit like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Or, and I think we sent you a load of questions about, you know, it was just trying to really clarify how that works. And I know other people have joined in partnerships and both joined. And but I think for us, it was kind of just important to get that straight from the beginning. And I think even in like maybe the first time we met up and we spoke to the accountant, he was just like, well, have you thought about, you know, your business going forward, about what happens in this situation or that situation? And it's not something we've like done officially yet, but it's just even having those things in the back of our head and prompting it's kind of like having this slightly difficult, uncomfortable conversations early on, because I think it like fosters trust, that you're like, we've talked about this, so if one or the other of us is kind of like erring away from that, we're like, well, hang on, this is what we talked about. Is that, unfortunately, I don't think that's happened at all with us.
No, not at all. So, I think you're so right, and you brought that up, and thanks for doing that, because I think I wouldn't have intuitively been like, oh, let's have those tricky conversations right at the beginning, but it really does create a sense of trust. And also it's like, if we can have those difficult conversations now, then, you know, if you might need to have them as well further down the line, that you're very transparent, all your cards on the table, and make sure that and be really clear about what's the agreement, how's the partnership going to work, what are the expectations, and almost having to have that conversation in relation to how we engaged with Taleem's program was like a good practice run of like how those conversations might have to pan out further down the line and as the business grows. So,
and we do have really different opinions sometimes, haven't we, on like how things, I think you've said a lot of times like, well, I don't know, is this going to alienate people or is this going to make, you know, and it's really about language. But I think because again it was sort of, I think we can both be quite assertive with each other. If we don't agree on something, it would be like, well, this is my thought on it. And often we'll have a little discussion. It's never really a fallout. There's a little debate, and then we both kind of come out the other side like, oh yeah, I hadn't really thought of that. So it's just been, I think it's like the advice I give to someone would be quite assertive about what you feel you need and what your opinion is from the beginning, because once you have that in place, it just feels really natural to go into those conversations. If you're trying to be really nice to the other person to keep everything okay, it's going to make it really tricky to just be, and it's actually going to make it stilted because you're not having conversations that drive something forward as well.
Absolutely. I love all of those points because it really is like you both have put in a lot of work behind the business, and I love the idea of like having those difficult conversations first and like being able to have that communication. And can we both be assertive in this partnership? Can we both talk up and share our opinions? Because something the reason I ask that as well is because sometimes people have an idea and it's their idea and they want to do it, but they're just in that scared and excited phase that Molly spoke about, and so they're like, oh, I'll just bring my friend along. Can I bring my friend along? You know, and we revert into that space of like, oh, I want to do this, but can I bring my friend along? And I think it's important to recognize that it's more than just bringing your friend along.
It could be. It could come with its own host of problems if it's
absolutely. And so it is really tuning in to, is this really a partnership that we both want? Like, what would our working relationship be like? How can we start it up in a way where we're going to move forward in a way that is soul nourishing for us both? And I think that's really, really important. And so I'm really glad you guys have shared that, because collaborations can work amazingly well, like yours have. But if it doesn't start with that foundation, it can be really tricky if you're just doing it to kind of moral support and come on the playground with me, you know. Like.
But also I think just that idea of being assertive, being honest and open with each other, and being cool about the fact that there will be things that you're going to disagree on. You might disagree on things about how to do this one task or this one aspect of the business, but it doesn't mean that you disagree as individuals. You're disagreeing about your approach on something, and that's actually not a bad thing, because then it makes you both think a bit more about why you're saying to do it this way, because you're like, well, I'm going to argue the reason why I think we should do it this way, and then it makes you think a bit more critically, and then you probably find like a middle ground at some point that brings in a bit of both of your perspectives, and then that's, and I feel really comfortable with the fact that we can have different opinions about how to do things, but it doesn't mean that we are disagreeing as partners. You know.
Well, no, I'm really seriously celebrating you both for everything you've accomplished, and thank you for taking time out to be able to have this chat with me. It's going to help so many other people as well to be able to see that, and especially if they are considering business partnerships, and I think you've given them a lot of food for thought in terms of what makes a good one, and one that can have a flourishing business. So thank you
Thank you very much. It's been lovely to see you again, Taleem, as well, and really nice to reconnect.
Yeah, you too. Take care.